of the revenue that you make, right? And much like in a startup.
Yes, man, and let's get some of our old soldiers back out.
Musicians to be professional. They know how to talk.
To help them wake up happy. It's not about a rectangle at a price.
We tuned in for another episode of Bank That Radio Show. I am your host, Andreas, and I have a special guest being brought via Podmatch again on Zoom. We have Miss Tracy Gunn, and she has a wonderful background. She is a serial entrepreneur. So not just a regular entrepreneur, but a serial entrepreneur. Has spent the last 16 years launching and running 4 businesses until she burnt out, but couldn't sell. But she fixed the business and she was able to find a buyer within 3 months. Now she helps helps business owners prepare to exit. And I wanted to bring her on because I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about a lot in business, exiting, because that is part of, the strategy of a business. And I think some people get caught up in keeping in business, and then not knowing what to do with it, not having a strategy, because we can only live for so long.
Correct.
Even if the business, is living with us. We can't take it with us when we go. So we have to have a plan for the business. So Tracy, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about sharing the cautionary tale here, right?
Exactly.
About
So
my mistakes.
So what got you into entrepreneurship, and then what made you want to jump to the level of serial entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, like I grew up working for a lot of small business owners. So I got to see and experience that, right? The chaos and the joy, but also the freedom. And and my dad had his own like little convenience store attached to his house in upstate New York. So I kind of knew how to do those things. But I'll be honest, like it was I had been homeschooling for 14 years. My husband at the time had a business that was a telecom business that he owned with partners. And so I was helping support that, and I was already doing that. And we kind of hit this wall. My ex was in 9/11. And so he kind of had some mental health challenges. And at that point, everything kind of fell out like from under me. My kids went to school, and I was like, how do I get out of this? Right. And so I decided, well, I can go back and get like a part-time job at Walmart or something like that, right? Go work for somebody for, minimum wage because I hadn't been in the workforce. Or I could try to do something and like bet on me. And for me, that was like an easier, and I felt like I had a better chance of success because I trusted myself.
Yeah.
And I knew I wouldn't know everything, but that I certainly believe that I could figure it out, right? And if it blew up in my face, it was all because of me, not other people's decisions, right? And I like to have that kind of control. So that's kind of how I started. And I started a candy store, and my kids grew up in it, and I still actually have it. I had a partner that was earning it, and then she changed her mind. But yeah, so I still have that one. 18 years later, I figured things out. And then I kind of got bored for a little while. And I was like, well, as we do, shiny objects and new adventures.
Exactly.
I am definitely more there's 2 kinds of people, right? It's the people who like to start stuff and get it going and make it work. And then they kind of get bored. That's me. So I'm definitely a 0 to 1 person, right? Like, let's start the new thing. I love to move. I like to start new projects, like all the new things. And so I started a restaurant. Now, why did I think I could do that? Because that was a huge thing. But because, I figured, well, I'll figure it out, right? I had some other stuff going on in my life. And usually when something goes on in my life that is maybe unpleasant or difficult, and I can't control that, I create a project for myself that I can control. That gives me something to do with my energy instead of worrying. So I make lemonade, right? And that's how I made lemonade 4 times. So that's kind of what I did. And and I just, you know what? You figure things out. Entrepreneurs are so capable of figuring out what they need to do. And a lot of us just really like it. We like the pressure, the stress, the anxiety. The risk versus the rewards, the hope, right? But what I found out the hard way was I had done all that front part,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the end part. Where's the
Mm-hmm.
reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how Exitable came about.
Mm.
Yeah,
Going
that's
through your own personal situation and then seeing that you're not alone in
correct.
this.
Yes,
There's a
I'm not.
lot of entrepreneurs out there who need exit strategies and thinking about their reward.
I just never, I thought about it. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
that little mind, like someday, like your children, right? You
Mm-hmm.
invest so much time and energy and money into them, and that someday they'll pay you back, take care when you're old,
Mm-hmm.
make you proud,
Mm-hmm.
give you that wedding day you can't wait to be at, grandbabies, right? They're going
Mm-hmm.
to pay you back in some way.
Mm-hmm.
We hope our businesses will pay us back someday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the big wealth occurrence is at exit. That's
Mm-hmm.
in your head, but very, very few people plan for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah.
So, right. So that's kind of the whole cautionary tale.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you have any questions about that, but like, yeah, that's kind of how all this started and how I became really passionate about
Mm-hmm.
talking to
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs and owners about
Mm-hmm.
what's your goal?
Mm-hmm.
What's your end date? What
Exactly.
are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Are you just building a prison that you're going to have to be stuck in forever? Or do you have a plan to not have to be there?
Yeah.
Or you have
So,
a plan to sell, so on and so
mhm.
forth.
So okay, let's talk about that then. So let's say someone's planning to sell
Mhm.
and you have to value the business in some type of fashion and form.
Sure.
How do one go about doing that, or what's the process of that?
Well, and there's a lot of different ways. So it's not as simple as like I kind of compare it to selling your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
You sell a house in your neighborhood, uh, there's probably comps, right? That's what they do is they look what's kind of similar, what do they sell for right now, and it changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are so they're similar, right? They have sales, they have fulfillment, they have staff, right? They have the same basic things,
Mm-hmm.
but what they are is unique. And
Mm-hmm.
so there really isn't a lot of comps out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as simple as let me look up what's in my neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, there's a lot of different ways. Now we teach a very simplified way just
Mm-hmm.
to get you understanding the terms,
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it works, things to pay attention to. Like
Yes.
here's the thing, here's my my cautionary tale is like I thought it was worth X, right? We all think it's worth millions, right? But I never knew how to value it. So how could I build and improve the value if I didn't even know how you started the value? Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Like I missed
Mm-hmm.
that whole piece, right? We know how to price our products based on what the costs are, and right, we know how to do all that, but yet some level, not only do we not plan for exit, but we don't think about what the value of our business is. I would say 99 out of 100 people have no idea unless they've
Mm-hmm.
sold before, right?
Yeah.
Usually going through it, they learn. So the way that we do it, and it's just the simplest model, is to go based on your profitability, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you take your profit, whatever you told Uncle Sam, this is the down and dirty, like
Mm-hmm.
you could do it on a napkin version is
Yeah.
what was your profit last year? And then if it's under 2 or 300,000 in profit, it's probably a multiple, right? Because there's two pieces. It's what is
Mm-hmm.
your profitability, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a multiple, like
Mm-hmm.
how many times would we multiply it to get to your value?
Mm-hmm.
And the multiple is really based on how much would a buyer want to buy your business? How confident are they in being able to reap the profit? And the
Mm-hmm.
higher the profit is, the higher the multiple is based on, because it's just a surer thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have something that's, let's just say, $1 million in profit, you probably have, if it's not professionally managed, it
Mm-hmm.
should be. But if it's not, and you have consistent years of that profitability, they're very confident that they'll be able to continue that, right? So they might pay a 3 or 4 multiple
Mm-hmm.
because of that confidence level.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's lower, like 100,000, 50,000, 300,000, right? Which is not bad. I would say 95% of small businesses are in that range.
Mm-hmm.
honestly, right? We all think everybody's rich, but we're all in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those multiples are going to be between 1 and 2,
Yeah.
unless you have something really special, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 1 and 2, and you probably have some work to do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just give an example. So if my profitability last year was 100,000, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a bad year, right?
Yeah, that's
And
not.
obviously we have built in there some deductions, right? We take advantage of the tax code, that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there are some other things you can do to it to improve the profitability to kind of get a real number. But
Mm-hmm.
just for this down and dirty version, 100,000. Let's just say the buyer was generous and said 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
My business is worth $150,000
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's willing to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
If the pieces are there so that when I signed on the dotted line, it wouldn't fall apart. If,
Mm-hmm.
right, it's all based on that confidence of, is this transferable? This is where
Mm-hmm.
we get the term exitable, right? Which is not a real word, but it describes it perfectly, which is,
Mm-hmm.
is the business dependent on you
Mm-hmm.
or not, right?
Yeah.
Is your business exitable? Could you leave? Could you go on vacation? This is an easy test. Could you go on vacation for 4 weeks and stay for 2 more and have it not implode?
Yeah. Which a lot of them can't because they work themselves in the business and the business is them,
Correct.
as opposed to them coming up with a process
Right.
and all these different systems
Mhm.
that makes the money. Yeah, I'm telling you, I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just sometimes with staff problems and life
Uh-huh.
and building and scaling, we just keep, and we get so good at taking on so much of the weight.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of delegating, instead of taking the
Mm-hmm.
time to
Mm-hmm.
solve that one time forever or documenting our
Mm-hmm.
procedures or all the things, right? We
Mm-hmm.
just keep taking on because we could take care of it in 5 minutes, but we forget
Mm-hmm.
that that 5 minutes is going to be every day for the rest of our lives,
Yes. I
right?
think that is very crucial to people to understand.
I mean, and it's like your children. I mean, again, we go back to the children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Children learning to tie their shoe. It's not a big deal to tie their shoes. They get them on, you just tie them, right? Now it takes some work to
Mm-hmm.
get them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But once they learn, you never have to do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Provided, everybody's healthy, you
Mm-hmm.
never have to do that again. So it's like you invest a little time,
Mm-hmm.
get them independent on that task,
Mm-hmm.
and moving forward, not your problem anymore. Right?
Exactly.
A lot of things that we do in our business just because we've always done. I heard this story once about this CEO, this big, like multi-million-dollar company, a big company, pretty well known in the digital world.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he kept getting these texts about, oh, we're out of snacks. Oh, we're out of this. Or they had set up the snack room.
Mm-hmm.
And when they started, he would just grab it on the way to work or whatever. It's just easier. And he never delegated it. And one
Mm-hmm.
day he was doing something really important and he got this text about, hey, we're out of ring dings or whatever it was. And he was like, why am I still doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, certainly this is not so crucial that I, first of all, have to field the text and second, have to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he just never offloaded it from his plate.
Mm-hmm.
And if most of us even just took a minute, closed our eyes, and thought about something that we've done from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
that somebody on our staff could do,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably at least 10 right
Mm-hmm.
off the bat that you could think of,
Yeah.
right? Just to free yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would it be worth it to do that? If you could free yourself up an hour a week,
Mm-hmm.
2 hours a week, like 20 minutes a day, like to just not have it be your job anymore. Excuse me. That's kind of how we start, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about that. And those silly little things, plus the
Mm-hmm.
big things that you're working on,
Mm-hmm.
make your business not exitable because nobody knows all the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
you
just-
got all that information. So let's reverse here then.
Sure.
Let's go in the direction of let's get the business because there's 27 million businesses or something like that, 29 million small
Something
businesses,
like that.
and
Yep.
20 is a good, well, of the number of businesses. I think it's like 29 million of them are owner ran, no employees, right?
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's very interesting when you start looking at the numbers.
Mhm.
How can we get those owners to get to the point to where they grow to where they can hire staff?
Sometimes it's not even having to grow.
Okay.
If you don't outsource some of the easy tasks, and it doesn't have to be hiring a person.
Mm-hmm.
It could be an automation.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So we forgot to share this part, but so I went to sell, I kind of hit the wall and I hired a broker I was going to sell. I just was
Mm-hmm.
done, right? I had 4 businesses and he
Mm-hmm.
told me none of them were worth selling. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. But what I realized after I had a little crying moment and I
Mm-hmm.
put my big girl pants on and thought, I'm going to
Yeah.
fix this, right? I
Yeah.
gave myself 6 months and I started to think about what in my business is not like, what didn't he see that I see? I see value. He doesn't see value. What's broken? And the
Mm-hmm.
first things we talked a little bit about getting the easy things or the painful things off your plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I started to think about, okay, if it's not all people, now I had staff. At the time, I had 42 staff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there were people to delegate to. But there also are technologies in our business that we're already using, right? I'll give you a simple one. If you use QuickBooks or some kind of bookkeeping, you can download all of your transactions from your bank account automatically.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it. And you can set up automations in QuickBooks that will match them for you,
Mm-hmm.
automatically classify them. Now, if you are like most business owners and you're still doing that, right? Because you've been in this so long, you didn't know that you could do it, or you just didn't find the time to do it. If you did that, think about how much time
Mm-hmm.
just on that one thing. You wouldn't have to have 8,000 receipts to enter. If you just use your card for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And download it. Easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was reconciling like 5 different businesses on the regular because just I always had done it. I outsourced that to a company, a VA, who
Mm-hmm.
you pay very little per hour if you go overseas. And all of a sudden, it's worth every penny. But I'll give you an even different example. That's something you have to set up in your QuickBooks or outsource, right? That would save you some time. And then buy back your time to do the other things you need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for example, in my restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
I realized one of the values in a business is your customer list. Who are you
Mm-hmm.
talking to? How do you talk to them? How often do you talk to them? And how much are they worth?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, I had a sense, right? We all have a gut feel of
Mm-hmm.
who our good customers are. But how many of us look at the numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I turned on an automation in my point of sale, which I
Mm-hmm.
already was paying for, wasn't new, but it was just a toggle to turn it on. Now it would track every time I swiped a card for Joe from wherever, it would track him.
Mm-hmm.
Then I implemented a very simple thing that most of us have experienced, like at the restaurants, right? Get a free appetizer, sign up for our club, right?
Mm-hmm.
I taught my staff, I ordered $50 worth of business cards that said join. The server would give it to them. And I didn't even postpone it. Like you get an appetizer next time. I said, you get one today,
Mm-hmm.
right? Motivated people. I want something for free.
Mm-hmm.
Servers want to give something for free. They want to make more money. So it was a win-win for everybody. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? I had within 30 days, I had thousands of people on my list and I knew who they were. I could talk to them anytime I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew how much they were worth. Customers happy, servers happy, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Just by hitting the toggle and instituting a little simple thing that had incentive for all. Do you
Mm-hmm.
see how that didn't cost me a lot?
No.
Right? But there are tons of things like that, especially with AI now, with
Mm-hmm.
AI, with all the automations. There's tons of free apps that will do a lot of the things you maybe need. Your point of sale, like, are you using your inventory control or not?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, it might require some work, or hey, if you do have a person working for you, let's just say you have a person running your store or working in your store full time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's just say you give them, okay, can you just document what you did? Like when you create this e-commerce order, what do you
Yeah,
do?
exactly.
Can you just document it? And then have them give it to their coworker who doesn't work on that and see if they can do it. Now you have the gaps. You don't have to do it. You just assigned it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways, but we just have to get creative. And we are creative when we need to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in crisis. We can figure stuff out,
Yeah.
right? We can find the money and we can figure things out. But when it's kind of just like the norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And remember our tolerance level, I have some business owners that are 50 years in. Their tolerance level is huge. Like what they can carry, what they know, what they like, all the things they've forgotten more than anybody could ever know. Their level is so high. They're going to need so many pieces to relieve them because they've built that tolerance for so long.
Yeah.
But it's great if you're starting to think about, again, E-Myth is a great book, just talks about the
Mm-hmm.
systems, right?
I actually
How to
have that
build.
on my bookshelf.
Oh, everybody should read it, and then read it again because it's an easy read. It
Uh-huh.
makes you feel better about who you are. Oh, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are, what you're doing, how you're stuck. Because every business owner is going through this on some level.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, it may look on the outside like everybody's got it all together,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't, right?
No.
How often have we asked like a friend, we see another business owner, we're like, how's business? And they're like, it's great, I'm living the dream. And then a month later, they're out of business,
Mm-hmm.
right? They weren't being honest
Yeah.
because they're shamed. There's all kinds of things in there. It's not anybody's business. I'm just saying we all kind of put the positive out there,
Mm-hmm.
showing that everything's fine. We've got it all together. Business is amazing. Meanwhile, we go home and cry, right?
Yeah.
Our spouses know.
Mm-hmm.
Our children know. Our
Mm-hmm.
staff knows how
Mm-hmm.
unhappy we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this can be fixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of my cautionary tale is the broker told me don't bother, have a fire sale, right? The thing is, I found a buyer in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, all is not lost. You
Yeah.
just are shifting what you're working on, right? Instead of building and more stuff and opportunities, you're just shifting your opportunity, which is more freedom related, right?
Mm-hmm.
And delegation related, like trying to make something that's stable even without you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just step by step.
Yeah. So you talked about some of these things, but like, how can one transform their business thing? What are 3 moves that they can make to transform their business?
So, I mean, the way that I do it, and everybody, I
Mhm.
mean, you figure out what works for you, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the way that I help people is we identify their exit date,
Mm-hmm.
right? We set a date and we kind of work around like, what is it you actually want? Because how many of us, when we started, we kind of were clear on what we wanted. We wanted to have a business. We wanted it to be this. We
Mm-hmm.
thought it was going to be this. We've adapted over time. Maybe it's not exactly how we started, but it's right. It's operational. We have customers. We have some process, obviously, because you fulfill,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have receivables, those kind of things, right? Excuse me. But then you get to this place where you just are concentrating on bringing more in.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really evaluated, do I even want to keep doing this? How
Yeah.
long do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this? What's the
Mm-hmm.
point?
Mm-hmm.
And so taking a little time to really think about, like chew on those questions. The beginning of the year is like the greatest time, but you could do this quarterly because we change our mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think we touched on it a little bit, things happen,
Mm-hmm.
health scares. I mean, who predicted COVID?
No one.
Right? I mean, maybe like we
Yeah.
don't want to get conspiracy thing. But my point is, who predicted that we
Yeah.
would? I mean, I was sitting in my bar preparing the day before St. Patrick's Day, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
they'll never shut us down. Like, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
And at 5 o'clock that night on the 16th, it came across the news. No inside service.
Mm-hmm.
Now I spent the whole day preparing for St. Patrick's Day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't predict that stuff, right? But you can create some plans for emergencies.
Yeah.
right? And you don't have to wait for the emergency to figure out. Like we do in case of emergency plan. That's what something every business should have. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like if I have a car accident, I'm in a coma. Like what happens to my staff, my business, my customers? Who
Mm-hmm.
knows how to get into my computer? Can you get
Mm-hmm.
into my phone to find
Mm-hmm.
the things? Can payroll get run?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not I've passed away. This is just there's a little emergency. I get stuck out of the country for 2 extra weeks and I can't access and transfer money to my payroll account. That has happened to me because I always could. And I
Mm-hmm.
went to a different country and I couldn't. Wouldn't let me in. What happened? Right? Those kind of things, right? And you can create a plan for those things.
Mm-hmm.
We start to think about those things, right? Because nobody builds a business to watch it disappear, right?
Yeah.
A crisis happens, somebody has a heart attack, somebody, is in a car accident, like whatever that is, right? I mean, I'm not trying to go negative, but it's reality,
It is.
right? Um, you own a business and you have a baby and there's something wrong with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And now you planned on just going back to work and handling things and you can't. Like what happens, right? Which is why it's so important to make it not all about you.
Yeah.
So anyway, but also knowing why we're doing this, right? Because your why could change. Part of the reason I want to change, not only did I get a little bit tired from running all the businesses, but
Mm-hmm.
my daughter had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, all I wanted to do was go and be there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be here anymore. And yet I kind of was the engine that made I had 42 staff. It wasn't like I was doing everything, but I still had to be here to kind of make everything work. I was
Mm-hmm.
I was the steam, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
for the locomotive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't just walk. And so my wants changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so how many of us haven't really thought about what we wanted? We're just kind of we're on the wheel,
Yeah.
right? So that's step one is just think about what you actually want. How
Mm-hmm.
long do I want to do this? What is it? What do I need it to be worth? Do I even want to be here? If you're thinking about exit, there's some level of doneness with you
Mm-hmm.
already. And that if the right opportunity showed up, you would
Mm-hmm.
take a check,
Yeah.
right? Catch you on the right day, you might set the match to let it burn, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
that's all of us are on some level there almost all the time. It's because business is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's first. Then understand where you are right now, like understanding what your business is valued at right now. This is not a shame process.
Mm-hmm.
It's an awareness process. And as you do that, all of a sudden you start to see how the pieces fit together and maybe what you should work on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to spend, let's just say you gave yourself, like I did, 6 months to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I focused on the things that would improve the value and the transferability,
Yeah.
not the other fun things I might want to do normally,
Mm-hmm.
right? That filtered what I was going to do because I had a different goal. And then finally, it's just figuring out how to find the time to dedicate to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
We do a couple extras like what's your pain list? What are the things you wish you never had to do ever again, right? What are the things that if you were on vacation and you wanted to extend it, what are the things that are broken that you couldn't extend it because of, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you really shouldn't be doing anymore?
Mm-hmm.
What are some quick wins, right? Those are easy things to just start to free up some time and get the ball rolling. I love personally choosing the things you wish you never had to do again, because the joy you feel when you hand it over
Mm-hmm.
motivates everything else.
Yeah.
Right? If it's a quick win, cool, right? But if it's something you really hate doing and even if it takes a little time to figure out how to offload it, once you offload that, now you're a little addicted. You're like, oh, I want more of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, like, what else do I hate, right? That kind of and you're happy about it because you're like, you know what? I know, even in the pain of figuring it out, who's going to do it, how they're going to do it, what's the system, What's the tech, people, technology, or a process, or the combination of those things will take care of an issue,
Yeah.
right? Brainstorming how to do those, which one, what combo, and just doing it, right? It's painful because
Mm-hmm.
we already have full days. But the motivation on the end of never having to do it again is pretty strong. It's pretty motivating.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
success one time, you think, all right, let's do that again.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I love when I was because I've had multiple businesses. I got a couple of them still now,
Mhm.
and one of the businesses I helped build was a private counseling business. And when I started offloading stuff and delegating it to other people, and I didn't have to deal with I didn't have to deal with the clients individually anymore in their accounts because it was a self-pay business model. We didn't do insurance. And when I delegated that, it freed up so much time. Well, I started doing
Oh,
started doing so much other stuff. Like, let me
I
see if
know.
I
Well,
can
then
delegate this. You do this. You do this. That way, you can
exactly.
work on bigger things and be more creative. So,
The
I
trick is to
definitely,
not sign up for something else, right? To keep
yeah.
ourselves, because we love opportunity. So we're like, oh, I've
Mm-hmm.
got this 20 minutes now. What else? What are we going to fill it with? No,
Mm-hmm.
right? Stay,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it's so important to figure out what you want. Like when you define
Mm-hmm.
that, that will
Mm-hmm.
keep you on track. Because I'll tell you, I've been out of restaurants for a couple years now,
Mm-hmm.
and people still bring me options, right? To take
Mm-hmm.
over. After COVID, there's a lot of empty restaurants, a lot of pain there.
Yeah.
Hard to find staff. There's a lot of issues. Costs have skyrocketed, all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
people are still bringing me like, hey, do you want? Do you want? And there's a momentary temptation.
Mm-hmm.
But because I've really defined what I want,
Mm-hmm.
the temptation only lasts so
Yeah.
long,
Exactly.
right? I might dig in a little just because it's exciting and interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but reality reminds me, do you want this really?
Mm-hmm.
This does not align with what you said you want. Have you
Mm-hmm.
changed your mind? Right? You
Mm-hmm.
start to, and it's a practice.
Mm-hmm. I definitely love that. So for I could talk to you for hours and stuff, but
I've
I do have to.
got lots of stories.
Yes, you do. You have a wealth of knowledge, and I love it. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing it. But for everybody out there, let them know if they want to, book a consultation and come up with an exit strategy with you, and be able to hire for services, anything like that. Where do they need to go?
So we have a homepage, getexitable.com. It has a couple free resources on there just to start, right? Because by the time people are working with us, they've kind of been through, hey, I want to sell. Hey, I know what my business is worth. It's not great. Hey, I have pain. I need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of gone through a little bit. So we've kind of created these free resources to help people kind of get through that
Mm-hmm.
educational piece, right? Because most people like, oh, I'm curious, they're not ready to work with us because they really haven't figured out some things. We do some free classes, we do some free consultations, we have some VSLs people can watch, we have a lot of free training. So
Mm-hmm.
all go to the homepage, it has access to a lot of those things. And my encouragement is just to start.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we make it so big that we don't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't want to, right? Setting the budget or whatever it is, right? With something we've just made big in our head. And if you just say, I'm going to spend 5 minutes and just do it, right? It's a worksheet. I'm going to download. I'm just going to start it. If I don't finish, that's cool. I can walk away in 5 minutes, give yourself permission and set the timer and just start.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're going through it, I make it very simple. I try
Mm-hmm.
to really bring it down to like small business owners are very smart, very capable, handling lots of things. I do not have time for all the nonsense, right? And
Mm-hmm.
all the fanciness. Let's just call it what it is. Let's do a down and dirty version just to go for your first run through. This is nobody saying sell your business at this value, but let's just do one.
Mm-hmm.
See where you are, right? Because there's so much awareness that comes with just doing the worksheet. Just
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? Same for your exit planning. It's not fancy. It's probably like 5 questions, but just to get the wheels turning, do 1 question a day for a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things. Don't make it big in your head. We have a tendency to complicate what could be simple.
Mm-hmm.
We build all the roadblocks of why we can't. Just give yourself that freedom and the gift of just thinking about what you want because you've worked so hard in your business to build it. There's
Mm-hmm.
value there. What you've done is valuable. give yourself the gift of having some clarity about what the end maybe looks like.
Yeah.
A gift to you. It's only going to reward you. It is not going to hurt you at all, right? It's only going to benefit you and make your business better and make you better. So those would be my encouragements. But we have like a sellability score, like how sellable are you? That kind of a thing. It's just a quiz, takes 2 minutes.
Mhm.
So there are some things there that could really just help you see the reality of your situation.
Mhm.
And you can make some choices about what to do about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tracy. I definitely appreciate the insights, the jewels that you dropped. Like you said, and like we discussed, at some point, something has to happen with the business, regardless. So everyone needs an exit strategy. So I definitely encourage everyone out there to go to the website, getexitable.com. You can see all the free resources that Tracy's talking about and go through those and practice. But thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Everybody out there, y'all continue to support the platform, Bake That Radio Show across social media. And always you can visit the website, bakedatradioshow.com.